My best friend smiled. Dude, you re not her husband. You re her employee. And she doesn't even pay you. After watching me work 14-hour days while my wife got her nails done, I work over 12 hours a day and handle all household responsibilities, while my wife does nothing and calls it men's duty. I am exhausted and considering drastic action. I am going to try to explain this without sounding like a whining victim, but I honestly don't know how much more I can take. I am an engineer making decent money, $95K, but I feel like I am drowning in responsibilities while my wife treats me like a live-in servant she doesn't have to pay. I know that sounds harsh, but let me paint you a picture of my typical day. Here is my typical day. My alarm goes off at 5:30 a.m., and I am the only one who wakes up because Vanessa isn't a morning person and needs her beauty sleep. I make coffee, check emails, and start a load of laundry before heading to the gym for a quick 30-minute workout. I had to cut it short because there is too much to do at home. Then it is off to work from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. as a senior engineer. When I come home, the house looks like a tornado hit it. Dishes everywhere, clothes scattered around, unopened mail, and our dog hasn't been walked. From 7:30 to 10:30 p.m. is my second shift. Cleaning, cooking dinner, walking the dog, folding laundry, paying bills, and handling whatever crisis popped up that day. Meanwhile, Vanessa works part-time at a boutique for maybe 25 hours a week. She spends her free time watching Netflix, shopping online, or hanging out with friends. When I ask for help, her response is always, "That is men's work. I already sacrifice enough by being married." What exactly does she sacrifice? I have been trying to figure that out for 3 years. Let me give you examples. When our dishwasher died, I spent 4 hours installing a new one while she got spa treatments. When her parents needed rides to medical appointments, I took 3 days off work because she doesn't do well in hospitals. For groceries, I hit 3 different stores every week because she has specific preferences, but claims she doesn't know where anything is. The worst part is her attitude. When we have people over, she brags about how Elias handles everything domestic. Like I am some trained house manager at a recent dinner party, she told everyone. I don't plan anything. Elias does all the heavy lifting. I just focus on looking good and being charming. That is the natural division of labor in a healthy marriage. My friend Mason pulled me aside and said, "Dude, that is not normal. You are being used." When I try to discuss sharing responsibilities, she lectures me about how she is naturally better at emotional intelligence, while I am naturally better at practical things. She insists she contributes by maintaining relationships and keeping herself attractive for me. Here is what is eating at me. I am burning out completely. My work performance is slipping. I have gained 20 pounds from stress, and I have no time for hobbies or friendships. I used to find Vanessa attractive, but now I just see another person making demands on my time. The breaking point was yesterday. After a brutal 12-hour workday, I came home to find she had invited her sister for dinner without telling me. While I cooked and served them, they discussed how modern men are finally learning their proper role in marriage. Vanessa said, "Elias understands that a strong man takes care of his household. I never have to worry about anything." I stood there washing their wine glasses, listening to them talk about me like a well-trained dog, and something inside me broke. I love my wife, but I am starting to resent her. Is it wrong to expect partnership instead of servitude? I feel like I am going crazy. Help me figure out if my marriage is actually as lopsided as it feels. Update 1. Thanks for all the responses on my last post. The advice ranged from communicate better to run for the hills, but most people suggested I try setting clear boundaries and having an honest conversation before making any drastic decisions, so I tried the mature, adult approach first. I waited for a weekend when we were both relaxed, made her favorite dinner, opened a nice bottle of wine, and sat her down for what I hoped would be a productive discussion about our marriage. "Vanessa, we need to talk about how we split responsibilities around here. I feel like I am carrying an unfair burden, and it is affecting my health and our relationship." She immediately went defensive. "What do you mean unfair burden?" "I work too, Elias. Just because my job isn't as stressful as yours doesn't mean I am not contributing." I pulled out a list I had made. Everything I do versus everything she does in a typical week. I thought visual evidence might help her understand my perspective. Look at this, I said, spreading the paper between us. I work 60+ hours a week at the office. Plus I do 100% of cooking, cleaning, home maintenance, bill paying, family obligations, pet care, and household management. You work 25 hours a week and help me fill in the rest. You looked at the list like I had handed her a dead fish. Elias, you are acting like keeping house is some huge burden. Women are naturally better at emotional and social intelligence. Men are better at physical tasks and providing. So you are saying it is my biological destiny to be your house manager? I am saying you are good at it, and I am not. Why would you want me to do things I am bad at when you can do them efficiently? That is just wasteful. I tried a different approach. Okay. But what if we hired someone to help with cleaning? I could work less overtime to afford it. Maybe get some time back for myself. Why would we waste money on that when you can do it for free? That seems financially irresponsible. But I am not doing it for free. I am doing it with time I could be spending on other things. Time has value too. She waved her hand dismissively. You are overthinking this. Besides, I would have to manage a cleaning service. Tell them what to do, check their work. That would just create more work for me. That is when it started to click. She didn't just want me to do the work. She wanted to avoid any responsibility whatsoever for household management. Vanessa, I am exhausted. I need help. I need you to step up and be a true partner in this marriage. Then manage your time better. Maybe wake up earlier or work faster. Other men handle full-time jobs and households without complaining. Other men have wives who contribute to the household labor. I do contribute. I handle the social calendar. I maintain our friendships. I make sure our home is beautiful and welcoming. Just because you cannot see the value in emotional labor doesn't mean it is not work. You tell me we have plans and expect me to handle all the logistics. That is not the same thing. Fine, but I do other things. I choose our home decor. I plan our vacations. Vanessa, you pick out throw pillows and tell me which hotel you want to stay at. I handle the booking, the itinerary, the travel arrangements, the packing, everything else. She was getting frustrated now. Why are you attacking everything I do? I work hard to make our life beautiful and meaningful. Just because it is not the kind of work you value doesn't mean it is worthless. I am not attacking what you do. I am asking you to also do some of what I do, or at least acknowledge that what I do has value too. Of course, it has value. I appreciate everything you do. I tell you that all the time. When do you tell me that? Another pause. I show appreciation in other ways. Do you actually love me? Or do you love what I do for you? Her face went red. That is a horrible thing to ask. Of course I love you. I chose to marry you. But why did you choose me? What drew you to me? She smiled, like the answer was obvious. Because you are reliable, hardworking, and responsible. You take care of things so I don't have to worry. You make my life easier and more comfortable. Not because you are funny or because we have great conversations or because you make me happy, because I make her life easier. I felt something cold settle in my chest. So if I stopped making your life easier, would you still want to be married to me? Why would you stop? That is like asking if I had still love you if you became a different person entirely. But you have become a different person since we got married. You used to be independent. You had your own apartment, paid your own bills, handled your own responsibilities. That was different. I was single then. Marriage is supposed to be about specialization and efficiency. We each play to our strengths. What are your strengths in this marriage? Specifically, she looked annoyed. I already told you. I handle the emotional and social aspects. I am the face of our relationship. I make our home beautiful. I keep myself attractive and interesting for you. Those aren't strengths, Vanessa. Those are hobbies you have convinced yourself are jobs. The conversation ended abruptly when she announced she had to get ready for girls' night out. I cannot talk about this anymore tonight, she said. You are being unreasonable and hurtful. and I need space to process this. I spent the evening doing 3 loads of laundry. Yes, we have a washing machine, but it has been broken for a week and I haven't had time to fix it yet. Meal prep for the week, and fixing a leaky faucet in the guest bathroom, while she posted Instagram stories about cocktails and much-needed girl time. Mason came over for a beer afterward and listened to me recap the whole conversation. "Dude," he smiled when I finished, "you are not her husband. You are her employee, and she is not even a good boss because she doesn't pay you or give you benefits. But she says she loves me. She loves what you do for her. That is not the same thing as loving you." His wife Sarah joined us after putting their kids to bed my home, like, seriously sick. For an extended period, I thought about it. I guess everything would fall apart. She would have to figure out how to handle things herself. And how do you think she would react to that? Probably with a lot of stress and resentment. Right? That is not how someone reacts when their partner is sick. That is how someone reacts when their service provider is unavailable. Sarah continued. When Mason had his appendix out last year, I didn't resent having to take over his usual responsibilities. I was worried about his health and happy to carry extra weight until he recovered. That is what partners do. I have been thinking about that conversation for weeks now. The more I think about it, the more I realize Vanessa has never seen our marriage as a partnership. She sees it as a beneficial arrangement where she gets financial security, domestic service, and social status in exchange for existing, I guess. I am starting to understand why I am so exhausted. It is not just the workload. It is the complete lack of appreciation, reciprocity, or acknowledgement that I am a human being with my own needs and limitations. She doesn't just fail to help, she actively expects to be served, and she has convinced herself that her expectations are reasonable, and my exhaustion is a personal failing. I am considering some significant changes to how I operate around here. Not sure exactly what yet, but something fundamental needs to shift. Update 2. Well, Reddit. I took the advice from many of you and implemented what some called strategic withdrawal. I decided to stop enabling Vanessa's learned helplessness and see what happens when she has to face reality. But first, let me tell you about Mason's wife Sarah's conversation with Vanessa. It didn't go well. Sarah invited Vanessa for coffee and tried to gently explain how partnerships work in healthy marriages. According to Sarah, Vanessa listened politely for about 10 minutes before interrupting. "I appreciate your concern," Vanessa told her, "but Elias and I have a different dynamic that works for us. Just because you and Mason chose to blur traditional gender roles doesn't mean every marriage has to work that way. Elias is fulfilled by taking care of our home, and I am fulfilled by creating beauty and maintaining our social connections." Sarah tried to explain that I seemed stressed and overwhelmed, not fulfilled. "Elias is just going through a phase," Vanessa replied. "Men sometimes get insecure about their masculinity and start questioning whether they are doing enough. It is actually quite common. He will work through it." When Sarah suggested that I might need more support and appreciation, Vanessa got defensive. "I support Elias constantly. I make our home a peaceful refuge from his stressful job. I don't nag him about money or complain about his long hours. I maintain my appearance and stay interesting, so he has a wife he can be proud of. That is more support than most men get." Sarah came back and told me the whole conversation. "She is not going to change," she said. "She genuinely believes she is already doing enough, and that you are the problem for being unhappy with the arrangement." That is when I decided to try the strategic withdrawal approach. It started small. I stopped doing Vanessa's laundry, explaining I only did my own now. She protested the washing machine was complicated, so I showed her the basics. Don't ask me how she did her laundry before we got married. Honestly, I don't know either. She looked at it like it was a nuclear reactor, but eventually figured it out. Next, I stopped handling her family obligations. When her mom called asking why no one showed up to drive her to the dentist, I handed the phone to Vanessa. She was furious afterward, complaining I had a flexible schedule and was better at logistics. The real drama started when I stopped doing dishes that weren't mine. Within a week, we had no clean dishes, and she was eating takeout off paper plates. The breaking point came when she invited her book club over without consulting me. Instead of my usual routine of shopping, cooking, and hosting, I made plans to go fishing with Mason. Elias, where are you going? I have 8 people coming over. The same person who invited them without asking if I was available to do all the work can handle it. When I returned that evening, the house was chaos, pizza boxes, paper plates, and a stressed, sweaty Vanessa on the verge of tears. She screamed that it was all my fault. I didn't embarrass you, I said. You embarrassed yourself by promising something you couldn't deliver. I shouldn't have to deliver anything. That is what husbands are for. And there it was, the truth she had been dancing around for months. I wasn't a partner in her mind. I was a service provider, whose job was to make her life effortless. When I pressed her on what she thought marriage roles should be, she explained that husbands handle practical things while wives provide emotional support and inspiration. When I asked if she actually did those things for me, she insisted she did by maintaining her appearance and not complaining about my work hours. Not complaining isn't the same as contributing, I told her. That is when Mason's wife Sarah called. She had heard about the dinner party disaster from one of the book club members. Elias, I need to tell you what really happened tonight. Vanessa spent the whole evening complaining about you. She told her friends that you refused to do your job as a husband, and that she was stuck with a defective provider who doesn't understand his role in marriage, like I am an appliance that malfunctioned. She also said you have been acting out because you are insecure, and that she is considering whether she can afford to keep a husband who will not fulfill his basic duties. Afford to keep. Like I am a service she is paying for. I hung up feeling completely numb. It wasn't just that Vanessa saw me as a service provider. She had been telling other people that my worth as a husband was dependent on my willingness to serve her. I am done, Reddit. Not just with doing everything, but with the marriage itself. Malfunctioning appliance instead of a human being. Isn't someone I can build a life with. Final update. I am writing this final update from my new apartment. And I honestly cannot remember the last time I felt this peaceful. Her reaction was, something to behold. Divorce. Over what? Because I don't want to be your maid. No, Vanessa. Because you wanted me to be yours. I had already consulted a lawyer and had the papers ready. The look on her face when she realized I was completely serious was like watching someone see a car accident happening in slow motion. Elias. Wait. We can work this out. I can help more around the house. It is not about the house anymore, Vanessa. It is about respect. You have spent our entire marriage treating me like hired help instead of your partner. That is not true. I love you. You love what I do for you. There is a difference. No, I love you. I chose to marry you. Why? Why did you choose to marry me? And don't say because I make your life easier. She opened her mouth, then closed it. The silence stretched for almost a minute. Because you are a good man. You are reliable and caring and I take care of everything so you don't have to worry about anything. More silence. Vanessa, when you think about me, what do you think about? What makes you happy about being married to me? You make me feel secure, safe, like I don't have to worry about practical things. Do you think about my personality, my sense of humor, the conversations we have, things we enjoy doing together? She looked genuinely confused by the question. Well, yes, of course. Like what? What is the last conversation we had that wasn't about logistics or household management? Another long pause. We talk about lots of things. Name one. She couldn't, because we didn't. Our entire relationship had devolved into her making requests and me fulfilling them. The next few weeks were illuminating. Suddenly, Vanessa was very interested in learning how to manage household tasks, pay bills, and handle responsibilities. But it wasn't because she had had some epiphany about partnership. It was because she was panicking about having to do everything herself. She went through the classic stages of grief, but applied to losing a service provider, denial. This is just a phase. Bargaining. What if I hire a housekeeper? Anger. You are abandoning your responsibilities as a husband. And finally, manipulation. I will tell everyone you left me because I wouldn't be your slave. The manipulation phase was particularly ugly. She started telling friends and family that I was divorcing her because she stood up for herself and refused to be a 1950s housewife. She painted herself as a feminist hero who was being punished for having boundaries. Thankfully, Mason's wife Sarah had already talked to several people in our social circle about what our marriage actually looked like, so most people saw through Vanessa's narrative pretty quickly. My sister-in-law, Jessica, who had been at the disastrous book club dinner, actually called me to apologize. "Elias, I owe you an apology. I always thought Vanessa was so lucky to have a husband who was so involved at home. I didn't realize she was doing literally nothing and then bragging about it. When she told us you were acting out and refusing to do your job, I started to understand what was really happening. It took me a long time to see it too," I told her. The night of that dinner party was eye-opening. Watching her try to host when you weren't there to do everything. It was like watching someone try to perform a job they would never actually learned. And then the way she talked about you afterward, like you were a defective employee, it was honestly disgusting. But the real wake-up call for Vanessa came when she had to start handling everything I used to do. The learning curve was brutal. Within 2 weeks, she was constantly stressed and calling me for help with basic things, like paying bills online. She had to cancel social activities because she was busy with household tasks. Her part-time job started suffering because she was exhausted and distracted. The house was a disaster despite her efforts. Bills were late. Her parents were upset about missed appointments, and her social life had disappeared. She was finally experiencing the sheer mental load I had been carrying. Not just physical tasks, but remembering everything, planning ahead, managing schedules and deadlines. I had no idea. She told me during our divorce negotiations, "I thought you just did a few chores after work. I didn't realize how much mental energy it takes to manage everything. Now you know what the last 3 years felt like for me. I am sorry, Elias. I really am. I took you for granted. I didn't understand how much you were doing or how hard you were working. You are only sorry because you are experiencing consequences. Vanessa, you had years to notice my exhaustion, my stress, my requests for help. You chose to ignore all of it because it was convenient. But I understand now. I see how wrong I was. Can we try again?" I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. "Vanessa, you understand that managing a household is work. You still don't understand that I am a person who deserves consideration and respect." "Yes, I do. I see that now." "No. You see that I was providing valuable services that you now have to pay for or do yourself. You are not sorry about how you treated me as a person. You are sorry about losing your personal assistant. That is not fair, isn't it? If I told you right now that I would come back and resume doing everything I used to do, but our emotional relationship would stay exactly the same as it was, would you take that deal?" She hesitated just long enough to prove my point. "I see," I said. "You miss what I did for you, not who I am." The divorce was finalized 2 months ago. Vanessa got the house but had to buy out my equity, which left her house poor and financially stressed. I kept my retirement accounts, my car, and most of our savings. Here is what my life looks like now. I moved into a nice 1-bedroom apartment, 15 minutes closer to work. My commute is shorter, so I have more time for myself. I work my normal 8-hour days because I am not constantly exhausted anymore. I have energy for creative projects and focused work. I meal prep on Sundays, just for me, exactly how I like it. I keep my place clean as I go because it is just me making messes. I have time for hobbies again. I am reading books, learning guitar, taking photography classes. I sleep 8 hours a night in a bed I make, just for myself. I wake up naturally instead of to alarm clocks because I am actually getting rest. I have lost the stress weight and gotten back into excellent shape. I feel better physically than I have in years. Most importantly, I remember what it feels like to be valued for who I am, not what I do. I have been dating someone new for the past 6 weeks. A software developer named Rachel, who has her own apartment, pays her own bills, handles her own life, like a competent adult. Our first date was coffee. When I offered to pay, she said, "I appreciate the offer, but I prefer to split it." I don't like feeling indebted to people I don't know well yet. When we went to dinner the second time, she insisted on paying because you got coffee last time. When I offered to fix a leaky faucet at her place, she said, "That is really sweet of you to offer, but I already called a plumber. Want to grab lunch instead." It was the sexiest thing anyone had ever said to me. Not because she rejected my help, but because she took care of her own problems without expecting me to solve them. Rachel and I cook together when we have dinner at each other's places. We both clean. We both plan activities. When one of us is tired or stressed, the other picks up more of the load temporarily. It is what partnership actually looks like. I cannot imagine expecting someone else to handle all the practical aspects of my life, she told me when I shared some stories about my marriage. How exhausting would it be to go through life feeling helpless about basic adulting tasks? Meanwhile, I hear through mutual friends that Vanessa is struggling significantly. She had to quit her part-time job because she couldn't handle working and managing a household. Then she couldn't afford the house payments without my income, so she had to sell it and move into a smaller apartment. Her social circle has shrunk dramatically because she doesn't have time to maintain friendships when she is busy with basic life maintenance. Several people have commented that she seems bitter and resentful all the time. Now she tried dating a few months after our divorce was finalized, but apparently it is not going well. According to Jessica, men her age expect women to be self-sufficient, and Vanessa keeps looking for someone to take over the role I used to play. She went on a date with this guy Mark, Jessica told me, and within an hour she was talking about how stressful it is to handle her own finances and how she needs a man who understands that women require more support. The guy literally got up and left. Part of me feels bad for her, but mostly I feel relieved that I am not responsible for managing her life anymore.